So in this video, we're going to quickly go over the formula I like to use when handling every sales objection. Word tracks, scripts, these kinds of things help, but they only help at specific times in the call, during specific contexts, and once specific things have already been looked after, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. You're going to walk away knowing exactly what to do in these situations. I like to break it up into 3 sections of handling objections. And I guess better to say 3 things you want to get out of the way, you want to handle in order before you move on, in order to make sure that the chances of you getting a yes, the chances of them being comfortable with moving forward actually makes sense. And those three things are service, logistics, and then emotions. In that order. If those things are not handled in that sequence, the chances of them saying no, the chances of them not moving forward go way, way up. So we'll talk about service first, and I'll show you why it needs to be in order. If service just means the actual thing that you and the prospect are going to do together to solve the problem, the service that you're offering as a sales professional. And if there is no belief in the service, if there is worry about if the service will actually work for them, there is no point in talking about anything else. Service is the thing you're going to do. Logistics might be the actual pricing. Do they have the money? Can they afford to do this? Do they have the time and availability to actually execute on the things you're going to need to do? And then the emotional side, fear, maybe a little bit of lack of trust in themselves, those kinds of things. And that's where analogies kind of come in, and those word tracks that you usually see people making shorts about, right? But going back to service, if they don't believe and have at least a good degree of confidence, like it doesn't need to be 100%, but there needs to be a good level of certainty that if they execute on what it is you're offering them, and what you're trying to show them to do, or if they let you execute on it, if it's like a done-for-you service, advertising agency type work, if they don't believe that that's actually going to get them the wanted result, then there's no point in talking about pricing models, payment plans, any other logistics with time and time investment. All of that stuff just doesn't make sense to kind of go back and forth on. Same thing if service isn't out of the way. If they don't believe that the service will work, there's no point in giving them all of these analogies about fear and doubt and all of these things. Yes, there is a little bit of emotion within the service itself depending on the offer, but again, there needs to be a degree of confidence in the service, especially if you're tackling just a general fear of themselves doing the work, or they've let themselves down in the past, or all of that fancy stuff, right? And once you've gotten service out of the way, you've handled those questions, they have belief in the service, you've talked through whatever their concerns are about, what you went through in the pitch, and they're like, okay, you know what, I feel good about this. I think that this is gonna work as long as I, do the work. Cool. Then you can move on to logistics. Then you can make payment plans. Then you can figure out pricing. Then you can do whatever it is necessary that's logistically keeping them back. Because again, if you notice that there's some fear, if you notice that there's some emotions behind their decision making, if they just don't have the money in the bank, or they just don't see how they could afford it, or if they just don't see how they could have the time to execute or figure this out, there's no point in, again, talking to them about overcoming fear and, just the fears in the first, you just got to make the leap or get over the fence, or there's no point in all of these analogies of fear and uncertainty if there's logistical things in the way that haven't been solved. If you take that away, the only thing left being fear, that's when you can talk to them and help them find the courage to take that leap. But again, if it's not done in order, everything is going to just get a lot more difficult. If you start giving them analogies and handling the fear and the emotions first, and then in the back of their mind they're thinking, but I don't even have the cash to do this, or I don't even know if I can do this, or is there payment plans, those things are going to keep that fear triggered no matter how much you encourage them. If they don't believe in the service and they have fear in their own ability to execute, you jumping right in and trying to give all these analogies and word tracks about fear, in the back of their mind, they're going to be like, yeah, but I still have doubts on whether what you guys say is even going to work. That is going to keep the fear going. So that's why a lot of people, they're having these conversations, and they're using these word tracks that they see in videos and hear from sales coaches, and they're using these analogies and they're saying these things, and then they see the prospect get a little bit confident and then spiral back in, and then say, you know what, maybe I should, and then spiral back in, and then it becomes this cycle and this tug of war, because there's legitimate things that they haven't addressed. There's things that they haven't removed out of the equation before they try to handle the emotional piece. In order for the emotional piece to actually, either be solved or for you to help them muster up the courage to move past it, there has to be nothing logistical, nothing in those two first categories holding them back. And then you will close a lot more deals and overcome a lot more objections. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you guys in the next video.